Hey guys, today I'll be making a prediction for the 2024 presidential election with Joe Biden as the incumbent Democratic president and Ron DeSantis, the incumbent governor of Florida, who is also currently second place in the GOP nomination process. And so the 2024 presidential election really is not that far away. If you look at the 2022 midterms, which are occurring just later this year, the 2024 campaign will essentially kick off right after the midterms, where Joe Biden is going to have to announce whether or not he's going to be running for re-election. His current approval rating is not exactly the best, but he has expressed interest in saying that he will be running for president once again. And so if this does happen, Joe Biden will obviously win the Democratic nomination. If he does not, there will be a very, very big primary fight, probably the same one like we saw in 2020 where Joe Biden ended up on top. And so for the Republican Party, they're going to have a nomination process no matter what, because they no longer have their incumbent president in office. Donald Trump is no longer the president, so it will not be like 2020 where he basically automatically wins the renomination. And so this time, even if Donald Trump does run, he will probably face some pushback. And if Donald Trump does not run, it will definitely be a race in which Ron DeSantis will be leading. And so if you do look at the polls for the GOP nomination, you will see Donald Trump has led in every single poll that has been released. It is clear that he is and has always been the frontrunner for the 2024 nomination, although I will say that his support has not really increased too much. The latest polls do show his numbers a little bit lower than they were previously at the beginning of last year. Now, if you look at the polls without Donald Trump, you will see that Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence are the clear frontrunners, with Ron DeSantis having a little bit more of a commanding share of the electorate. However, Ron DeSantis does lead in quite a few more polls than Mike Pence. So this is if Donald Trump is not included. His son, Donald Trump Jr., does garner a significant portion of the electorate, with Mike Pence typically in second place. But Ron DeSantis, this polling really does just show that Ron DeSantis is currently poised to win the nomination if Donald Trump is not the nominee. So if you do look at the odds for the 2024 GOP nomination, you will see that Donald Trump has been leading, but Ron DeSantis has been behind him essentially for the last 1.5 years. At one point, Ron DeSantis was even first. So I'm going to start off by filling in the solid states on this map for both Biden and DeSantis, with solid states being states in which either candidate is going to carry by over 15%. So I'm going to start off with the West Coast here. Joe Biden obviously going to win Washington, California, and Hawaii, while Ron DeSantis is going to carry the upper northwestern states that are not bordering the Pacific. I'm also going to give him all of Nebraska with the exception of the 2nd District. I'm not going to include the state of Missouri, which we'll go over later, but I will be giving Ron DeSantis basically the entirety of the South, and this will give him 92 electoral votes. For Joe Biden, he will win most of the upper northeast here. I will be excluding the state of New Jersey, and this will give Biden a total of 159 electoral votes with his solid states to Ron DeSantis with 92. So these states are not going to be too contested at all. I don't think any candidate is going to be trying to win over voters in these other states because there's just really no point in that. If you look at the 2020 election results, you'll see these are states in which either candidate won by big margins. States like Montana, Trump winning 57% of the vote, Wyoming with almost 70%, Biden winning 64% in California. So these are the solid states that really do not matter in terms of the electoral college. It's really the states that we have left on this map that are going to make that difference. So before I take a look at the likely states on this map, these are states in which either candidate is going to win by 5 to 15%. Make sure to join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is the very top of the description below, where you can stay updated on the 2022 Senate and governor elections, as well as the 2024 presidential election. So if you were to take a look at the only polls that have been released between Biden and DeSantis, you will see that Joe Biden has led in every single national poll that has been released thus far. This is different from the Trump versus Biden polls, in which Trump actually does lead in the aggregate. So Joe Biden is polling a lot better against Ron DeSantis than he is against Donald Trump, but I think this is just definitely because of the fact that it is very early on in the race, and Both of these candidates are currently hypothetical, and Ron DeSantis, the fact that he is not president, he does not have the same kind of name recognition across the country as Joe Biden does. That definitely does harm him in these polls, but I don't think this is too significant at this point. Joe Biden is pretty much just winning because he is the incumbent president, although his popularity currently is not exactly great. After the failed, pretty much the failure of the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, his approval rating has dropped significantly, as you can see in the month of August of 2021, and it has yet to improve. I do think that the situation in Ukraine has increased his support a little bit, but really it has stayed relatively even at around -10 to -12 on average, even -13 at some points. However, Donald Trump has been less popular than Joe Biden just overall during any point in his presidency compared to Biden. So at least Biden is not doing worse than Trump at this point, but he is getting closer and closer. So to start off by filling in the likely states on this map, there are quite a few obvious ones, like the states of Oregon and New Jersey for Joe Biden. He won both these states by solid margins in 2020, and he probably is going to win them by pretty commanding margins in 2024, but I do think the margin will just be a little bit lower. I will also be giving him the 2nd District of Maine, as well as the states of Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico. Again, all states this time that he won by likely margins. In the state of Colorado, Biden won by 13.5%. In New Mexico, it was 10.8%, and 10.1% in Virginia. So these are three states that Biden has done relatively well in, the best for a Democrat in a very long time. If you look at the 2016 results, Colorado just 5%, New Mexico 8%, and Virginia 5%. You go back to 2008, Virginia was only won by Obama by 6%, Colorado by 9%, New Mexico, this was a state in which Barack Obama did very well in, winning it with a solid margin. So definitely Barack Obama is, obviously a much better candidate than Joe Biden. He even won Michigan by 17%, in 2004. This only voted for Kerry by 3.4%. So obviously, Joe Biden is not Barack Obama, but in 2020, he did do relatively well in these three states that have been generally shifting to the left over the last couple of decades. If you look at 2004, these states were all won by George W. Bush. So this will give Joe Biden now 211 electoral votes. And now I'm going to move on to taking a look at the likely states for Ron DeSantis, starting off with the states of Alaska and South Carolina. These are two states in which Trump has not won by solid margins in 2016 or 2020. I do fully expect these states to vote for Ron DeSantis. I just think the margins are going to be a little bit lower. Same thing for the states of Missouri and Indiana. These are states that went solid for Trump in 2020. I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to do as well. And I don't think that Ron DeSantis is going to do better than Donald Trump in the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt really is an area of the country that Donald Trump did very, very well in both 2016 and 2020. So I'm not going to give Ohio as likely to Ron DeSantis, but I will be giving the state of Texas to the governor of Florida. I do think that he is going to win this state by a larger margin than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has had some pretty disappointing performances in the state of Texas. I mean, if you look at 2004, the state voted for Bush by 23%. In 2008, it was 11% for John McCain. 4 more years, 2012, Romney wins it with a solid margin, but Trump in 2016 wins it by single digits, and in 2020 he wins it by just 5.6%. That is a very small margin for a Republican in 2020, even though the state is gradually shifting to the left, as it is one of the fastest growing states in the country, with most of that new population going to its urban, more democratic areas. 5% is pretty small. If you look at the Senate election in 2020 in the state of Texas, you will see that in 2020, if I can get that right. So in 2020, John Cornyn won it by almost 6%. That wasn't exactly that large of a margin. Even in 2018, Ted Cruz only won Texas by 2.6%. So the state of Texas is trending very badly right now for the Republican Party, but I definitely do not think that the state will go blue anytime soon. In 2014, John Cornyn won by 27%. So I think Donald Trump has had a pretty negative effect on the voters in Texas in terms of keeping that very large Republican majority. I do think that Ron DeSantis will do a little bit better, and I think that the state will obviously remain as likely for the GOP, at least for another 4 years. And this will give Ron DeSantis 171 electoral votes and 211 for Joe Biden. I'm not going to give the state of Florida to Ron DeSantis as a likely state. Even though he is a governor of this state, I don't think he will win it by that much. The state of Florida has remained pretty close for a very long time. Even in 2020, the margin was only 3.4%, and that really was the largest margin that we've seen in a very long time. If you look at Obama's 2008 margin, it was only 2.8%. 2004, Bush did win it by 5%. So the state of Florida has been relatively close since then. Bush did do very well in 2000. In 2000, of course, this was the state that decided the election, where Bush ended up winning the state by the smallest of margins. And so I do not think that Ron DeSantis is going to carry Florida by that significant of a margin. I think that we will see something similar to what Trump got, which is, considerably a pretty good margin in a state like Florida. So now I'm going to categorize the lean states on this map, starting off with, of course, Florida. Its 30 electoral votes will go to its governor. I don't think Joe Biden is really going to stand a chance in Florida with Ron DeSantis as the GOP nominee. I will also be giving him the state of Ohio and its 17 electoral votes. With the state of Ohio, just again, Donald Trump has done very well in the Rust Belt. I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to replicate that in 2024 as the nominee. In 2012, of course, Barack Obama won the Rust Belt, as well as 2008. Essentially, the entire Midwest was blue. Michigan, 17%, Pennsylvania, 10%, Wisconsin, 14%. I mean, these are huge margins. In 2012, he lost Indiana by a pretty large margin. And in 2016, Hillary Clinton lost basically the entirety of the blue wall. She only kept Minnesota very narrowly. But in 2020, Biden was able to win that upper Midwest back, giving him the presidency. But I do think that these were some pretty weak margins. In the state of Ohio, Trump really did not do any worse, even though many expected Biden to maybe get that margin down by a lot, but really he made no difference. But I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to win Ohio by as much as Trump did. I will be giving Joe Biden, though, the states of Minnesota and New Hampshire. These two states are probably going to remain blue under Joe Biden, not as large as the 7% margin we saw from them in 2020, but I think that he'll still hold on to them. I will also give the 2nd District of Maine to Ron DeSantis, this again being a district that voted for Donald Trump. I don't think Ron DeSantis will do as well, especially in the upper region of Maine. I will be giving Joe Biden the state of Michigan and its 15 electoral votes. I think that he will be able to hold on to this. So by lean, I mean states that will vote for either candidate by 1 to 5%. And of course, tilt is anything less than 1%. So the state of Michigan, I do think it will continue to vote blue. It is a little bit more Democratic than it is Republican, even though the state is generally also trending to the right along with the rest of the Rust Belt. At this point, I think Joe Biden does have enough votes here to continue to carry the state. And so this will give Joe Biden 240 electoral votes with all of his lean states. But for Ron DeSantis, there are a few more, a few major ones actually. Starting off the state of North Carolina, I don't think this is too surprising. The last time a Democrat won this state was in 2008 with Barack Obama. Before that, it was 1976 and the election of Jimmy Carter. So the state of North Carolina since 1976 has voted for a Democrat once, and that was in 2008 by a margin of 0.3%. Democrats have been trying to win it back ever since. Biden came pretty close in 2020 with just a 1.3% margin, but with Joe Biden's popularity at this, I don't think he's going to do any better. So it will obviously remain in the hands of the GOP for now. I will also be giving Ron DeSantis both the states of Georgia and Arizona. So these were the two Sunbelt states that Joe Biden flipped very narrowly in 2020. He won just 49.5% of the vote in Georgia and 49.4% of the vote in Arizona. So these are two very small margins in Arizona and Georgia, but these were historic flips. Georgia had not voted for a Democrat since 1992 with the election of Bill Clinton, and Arizona had not voted for a Democrat since 1996 and the re-election of Bill Clinton. So these two states, they they were massive flips for Joe Biden, and these were also, these states also voted for Democrats on the Senate level in the end as well. So Democrats definitely did well here, but they won it by very narrow margins in a year where the Democratic Party swept the entire government of the U.S., winning the House, the Senate, as well as the presidency. So, that very small margin is going to deteriorate for the re-election of Joe Biden. He's not going to have the same sort of enthusiasm, and obviously with his approval at this, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to win these states again, and so this leaves 3 states left on this map that will decide the 2024 election between Biden and DeSantis in this hypothetical matchup. So I'm going to start off by giving Nevada as tilt to Joe Biden. I think he'll hold on to it. This is a state that he was able to win by 2%. I think he'll probably hold on to it in the end. I will also be giving him his birth state of Pennsylvania, and this will be another 19 electoral votes for Joe Biden. He won it in 2020. I think that the Democratic Party does have enough in both these states to hold on to it one more time. In the future, we'll have to see. I think if Democrats can run good candidates, they can win. But at this point, I think that after 2024, the Republicans is going to start to have a little bit of an advantage in both of these states. In the Rust Belt in general, our Democrats will probably make gains in states like Georgia and Arizona to the point where it'll be difficult for Republicans to win. I think they'll also continue to make ground in North Carolina. They just re-elected their Democratic governor in 2020 with Roy Cooper, and Texas is another state that Democrats are trending better in. So this will give Joe Biden 265 electoral votes and 266 with the addition of the 2nd District of Nebraska, which I do think Joe Biden will narrowly hold on to. And so finally, with the state of Wisconsin, I will be giving it to Ron DeSantis. It's 10 electoral votes I do think will vote for the GOP. The state of Wisconsin is a state that will be a lot more difficult for Democrats to hold on to, especially compared to the other states in the upper Midwest. Biden actually won Wisconsin by a smaller margin than Trump did in 2016, so this will give Ron DeSantis 272 electoral votes, Joe Biden 266, and I do think that it will be a very narrow race. Joe Biden is still the incumbent president, and it is very difficult to beat an incumbent. Donald Trump, of course, did lose, but he was also very, very unpopular, and if you do look at the vote in many states, Joe Biden barely won 306 electoral votes. If he had just won 0.2% less, he would basically win by the same margin as Ron DeSantis. So even though Ron DeSantis only barely wins, I do think that it is not any less of a victory than Joe Biden's. Biden only winning Georgia by 0.2% and Arizona by 0.3%. Losing these 2 states would basically put Biden at around 270, 280 electoral votes. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to join my Discord server if you have not. The link to which is at the very top of the description below. Like it down below if you like this video down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think would happen in a scenario between Biden and DeSantis. Which of these state categorizations you don't agree with or agree with. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.